The Honourable Hiki-Parata.
Mr Chair, I'm absolutely delighted to make a contribution to tonight's debate. I am extremely proud of this government's commitment to education from early childhood through primary, into secondary and the transition into tertiary opportunities. I'm very proud that despite the extreme challenges and the fiscal pressures on New Zealand, we have in every year in the past 5 years raised our investment in education. It is $9.7 billion in budget 2013, which represents a 74% increase in the funding for early childhood education and a 30% increase in the funding for our compulsory sector. We put our money where our mouths are. I'd like to deal with 2 or 3 assertions that are absolutely groundless that have been made by members in the House tonight, perhaps through misinformation. I certainly hope that is the only case. For a start, choice in schooling has long been a characteristic of the quality of education provision in New Zealand. A choice as to whether to send one's child to a full primary or a contributing primary, to an intermediate school or to a co-ed secondary school or to a single-sex school or to faith-based schools, or to total immersion Māori, or total immersion English, or bilingual. Choice is a characteristic of the high-quality New Zealand education system, and what partnership schools Kura Hautua do is add to that choice. There will be no compulsion for any parent to enrol their child at one of the partnership schools. Let's also keep a sense of proportion here. We have over 2,500 schools in New Zealand. We are talking about a handful of a new type of school because this government, unlike previous administrations, are not prepared to sit on the status quo and accept that 70% of our kids will be successful but about 30% won't be. We are prepared to investigate and invest in other options and opportunities that can be successful. And what we've done is very typical of New Zealanders. We've gone overseas, we've looked at what's happening there, we have cherry-picked the elements that we think will work here, and we have indigenised them for New Zealand circumstances. We have long had a tradition of doing that. It is also both specious and selective to assert that charter schools are a failure. It is not the type of school, it is where they are practiced. There are some significantly successful schools, in the UK, in the United States and in Europe that are that kind of model. And actually, to be technically correct, every school in New Zealand is a charter school. Every school is required to have a charter that sets out what it will do, how it will go about it, and then report against it. So I think that people need to be very aware of what we actually are talking about. The second groundless assertion I would like to deal with is that there have been no cuts to the early childhood education budget. How the opposition can assert that when we've gone from a budget of about $800 million in 2008 to one of $1.5 billion in 2013 defies credulity as being a cut. It's just not possible. Quality, the evidence is really clear in early childhood education, is not ineluctably correlated to 100% qualifications. In fact, the evidence is really clear that it is a mix of qualification, of ratio of adults to children, of parental engagement, of diversity of choice. The sweeping dismissiveness of supported playgroups, as if they don't count, is a sweeping dismissal of parents and parents' choice to have different options in which they have early learning occur for their children. And the third assertion that I would like to deal with tonight is my alleged constant use of the term tale of underachievement. I would challenge anyone to find me quoted as using that. I never have. I think that it is disparaging of those young people who are in the cohort who our system has not served as well as it could or should and will under this government. So this government has put its money where it's Malthus will continue to do so because we are interested, Mr. Chair,
The Honourable Hiki Parata.
because we are absolutely committed to parents having choice, parents having clear and accessible and easy to understand information that allows them to partner with their school, with their child's teacher and with their child on understanding what the next learning step should be and how they can contribute to that. We are committed to the New Zealand School Trustees Association, and there again, the increase factually is 84% in this budget to the funding for NZ Star. The suggestion that somehow or another this is going to tie an independent organisation to the government is just not founded in fact. In fact, what is happening is the transfer, in accordance with Star's wishes, that work that has otherwise been carried out by the Ministry of Education, they will be even more independent, in fact, than hitherto they have been. We have invested in positive behaviour for learning, which again is a parent-connected program on how we can improve conduct so that children, when they go to school, have learned how to learn and teachers are able to teach rather than control behaviour, and parents are engaged in that process. In terms of the profession, we know that quality teaching has the biggest in-school effect on raising achievement. We are dedicated to supporting quality teaching, and we have reflected that A, in our investment, B, in creating a data-rich environment, and again I dispute this nonsense that having data available doesn't help. Of course it does. It is a characteristic of the top-performing education systems with whom we like to compare ourselves. But data without knowledge to apply it is as useless as knowledge without or opinion without data. We're focused on how we can bring those together. We've invested in the transformation of the New Zealand Teachers' Council because we believe utterly in the importance of there being a professional body for the profession. We're investing in a consistent appraisal system for the purpose of teachers being aware what their next professional step could and should be. We're investing over $340 million in professional learning and development so that we can ensure our teachers do get the best development and pedagogical learnings that they need to be the best teachers that they can be. And recognising that kura kaupapa, on average, have a higher set of outcomes for Māori students, we're investing in supporting kaiako to stay in the kura system, to have the support and resources they need to do that. We've focused on recruiting more teachers into the total immersion mainstream, which again is something that the previous government talked a lot about but did absolutely nothing. We're focused on performance. As my colleagues before me have said, we've set ourselves better public service targets because this government is unafraid to be publicly and transparently accountable. We are ambitious for every child and young person in this country, for themselves, for the better quality of life choices that they will have for themselves, for their families and for their communities, but also, as my colleagues have previously indicated, successful young people are a success for this nation. It is in our interest that every New Zealand child and young person has the best possible education, and this government has moved past hand-wringing and iterations of the problem to actually confronting and dealing with those problems. And in the time that we have been in government, we have seen every level of achievement go up at every part of the system, but not yet enough. We will not be satisfied, we will not rest until we can make it possible for every child to realise their potential and to step out on the pathway of a better life than otherwise would happen. We know the potent transformational power of education, and we are committed to it being available to every one of our young people. So, Mr. Chair, I am really... Oh, and the final thing is the platform. We're committed to modern learning environments. My associate colleagues are working in different areas. The Nikki Kay is looking at how we can better manage our property, the second biggest asset portfolio on the government's balance sheet on behalf of parents and taxpayers, on our busing system, and of course on our digital platform, because we embrace the 21st century of learning with the tools to do it.
I call Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Mr Chair, there was a reasonable amount in what the Minister was just speaking